The ill-timed joke. Dr. Amara Chen wiped sweat from her brow as the massive doors to the Nebulon High Council chamber sealed behind her with a resonant hum. The air felt thick with tension, heavier than Earth's gravity, making each breath difficult. "Remember your training," she whispered to herself. "First contact protocols maintain composure, project confidence." The diplomatic mission had gone sideways in seconds. What should have been humanity's triumphant introduction to the Nebulon Alliance had turned into a disaster, all because of one stupid joke. It had seemed harmless, a universal quip about bureaucracy, meant to break the ice with the towering purple-skinned delegates. Instead, their four eyes had widened in shock, their translator, devices emitting harsh feedback as council's members rose from their seats in unified outrage. "How was I supposed to know?" Amara muttered as she paced the holding chamber. "That comparing their sacred decision-making process to Earth's DMV would be tantamount to blasphemy." The walls pulsed with an eerie bioluminescent light that seemed to follow her movements. The entire structure felt alive, responding to her anxiety with subtle shifts in temperature and color. A soft chime preceded the opening of the chamber door, revealing Cooper, her assistant. His face was ashen. "It's bad, Dr. Chen, really bad," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Council is invoking Article 7 of their contact protocols." "Which means what exactly?" she asked, feeling her stomach drop. "It means they consider your joke an act of deliberate cultural sabotage," Cooper replied, pulling nervously at his collar. "They're assigning you to something called rehabilitative diplomacy. That doesn't sound so terrible," Amara said with forced optimism. Cooper wouldn't meet her eyes. "They're transferring custody of you to Commander Rena of the Stellar Vanguard." The name sent a chill through Amara. Even in their brief research of Nebulan culture, Commander Rena's reputation had stood out. A legendary warrior diplomat, known for both brilliant negotiation tactics and merciless efficiency in dealing with those who failed to respect Nebulan customs. "What about the rest of the team?" she asked. "Sent back to Earth with a formal warning," Cooper said. "I'm only here to collect your personal effects and communication devices. You're to be completely immersed in their culture until they deem you rehabilitated." The door chimed again, this time revealing two Nebulan guards flanking a figure that made Amara's breath catch. Commander Rena stood nearly 7 feet tall, her purple skin adorned with luminescent markings that pulsed with what Amara could only interpret as barely controlled anger. Her eyes deep violet assessed Amara with cold calculation. "Dr. Amara Chen." The commander spoke, her voice surprisingly melodic despite the underlying steel. "You have committed a grave offense against the Nebulan High Council." Amara straightened her posture, refusing to be intimidated despite her racing heart. "It was a misunderstanding, Commander. I meant no disrespect." A slight curve appeared at the corner of Rena's mouth. Not quite a smile. "Intention is irrelevant. Outcome is everything," she said, stepping closer. "You will accompany me to my vessel where your rehabilitation will begin." "And if I refuse?" Amara asked. The commander's eyes flashed with something between amusement and warning. "That would be most unwise, Dr. Chen," she said, softly, "most unwise indeed." Purple persuasion. The transport vessel hummed with energy as it carried Dr. Chen away from the diplomatic station, toward the looming silhouette of Commander Rena's warship, the Astral Sovereign. Amara pressed her palm against the viewport, mesmerized by the vessel's design, unlike any spacecraft she'd studied during her xenotechnology courses. Its hull seemed to ripple with life, organic, yet metallic, radiating power. "Impressive, isn't it?" Commander Rena's voice came from behind her. The tall, purple-skinned warrior moving with surprising grace for someone of her stature. "The Sovereign responds to its commander's thoughts. We are connected in ways your technology cannot replicate." "It's beautiful," Amara admitted, turning to face her, captor finding Rena standing closer than expected. "Though I'd appreciate understanding what exactly rehabilitation entails in Nebulan culture." Rena tilted her head, studying Amara with those penetrating violet eyes. "You speak directly. I appreciate that quality," she said. "Most species cower when brought aboard my ship." I'm not most species, Amara replied, holding her gaze. And I didn't come all this way across the stars to cower. Something flickered across Rena's expression, a subtle shift. That might have been respect. Indeed you are not, she agreed. As for your rehabilitation, it is simple. You will learn our ways, understand our customs, and demonstrate that understanding through a series of trials. The transport docked with a gentle shudder, and the doors slid open, revealing the interior of the Astral Sovereign. Amara stepped out into a vast chamber with ceilings that soared at least 30 feet high. The walls pulsed with the same bioluminescence she'd noticed in the council, chambers creating patterns that seemed to follow their movements. Welcome to my domain, Dr. Chen, Rena said, gesturing broadly. For the foreseeable future, this is your home. Two Nebulan officers approached, both regarding Amara with undisguised suspicion. Their skin was a lighter shade of purple than Rena's, their uniforms less ornate but still impressive. Commander. One of them spoke, his voice deep and resonant. The Council requests confirmation of the humans' containment protocols. Rena waved her hand dismissively. Inform the Council that Dr. Chen is under my personal supervision. No containment protocols will be necessary. The officers exchanged glances, clearly surprised. But Commander, standard procedure for diplomatic offenders. I am aware of standard procedure, Viceroy Thorn. Rena cut him off, her tone suddenly sharp. I am also your commanding officer. Is that understood? The officer named Thorn stiffened before inclining his head in deference. Of course, Commander, as you wish. After they departed, Amara raised an eyebrow. Personal supervision that sounds either very promising or very concerning. Which it becomes is entirely up to you. Rena replied, leading her down a corridor where the walls seemed to part before them, reforming after they passed. You intrigue me, Dr. Chen, because I made a terrible joke about your sacred decision-making process. Because you made a joke at all, Rena corrected. Few species attempt humor during first contact protocols. It shows either remarkable confidence or remarkable foolishness. They arrived at what appeared to be private quarters far more spacious than Amara had expected. The room featured a large viewing portal showing the stars, a bed, designed for human proportions, and various furnishings that seemed to grow from the floor itself. These will be your accommodations, Rena said. The room will respond to your basic needs. You need only speak them aloud. Amara walked slowly around. This doesn't feel like punishment. Punishment is not the objective, education is. Rena moved to stand before her again, her imposing height forcing Amara to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. Beginning tomorrow, Kai, my cultural advisor, will begin your instruction in our ways. You will learn our history, our customs, our values. And if I'm a slow learner? Amara asked. Rena's lips curved into that not-quite smile again. Then we will have much time together, Dr. Chen, she said, her voice dropping lower. And I find I do not object to that possibility. The comment sent an unexpected warmth through Amara's chest, surprising her. She watched as Rena turned to leave, the purple markings on her skin catching the light. Commander, Amara called, causing Rena to pause at the threshold. Thank you for the quarters. Rena turned her head slightly. Rest well, Dr. Chen. You will need your strength. The door sealed behind her, leaving Amara alone with her thoughts and the strange feeling that her diplomatic disaster might have led her somewhere unexpected. Learning the ways morning arrived, announced by a gradual brightening of the room's bioluminescence. Amara sat up disoriented before remembering her circumstances. The bed had conformed perfectly to her body during the night, providing the best sleep she'd had since leaving Earth. Water, she said experimentally, and watched in fascination as a section of the wall morphed, creating a small basin that filled with clear liquid. She approached cautiously, testing it, finding it cool and refreshing. A chime sounded and the door slid open, revealing a Nebulan male shorter than Rena, but still towering over Amara. His purple skin was lighter, almost lavender, with fewer luminescent markings. He carried what appeared to be clothing. Dr. Chen, I am Kai, cultural advisor to Commander Rena, he said, his tone formal but not unfriendly. I have been instructed to begin your education in our ways. Amara nodded. I appreciate your assistance, Kai. Though I must say this entire situation seems rather extreme for one poorly timed joke. Kai's expression shifted slightly. The concept you humans call jokes does not translate well to our culture. Dr. Chen words carry power in Nebulan society. They are not merely sounds but commitments, bonds, promises. He offered the clothing. These are adapted for your physiology but designed in our traditional style. Please change and join me in the corridor when ready. The garments were surprisingly comfortable, flowing material in deep blue with subtle purple, accents that seemed to shimmer with the same bioluminescence as the ship. When she emerged, Kai nodded with approval. "Follow me," he said, leading her through corridors that widened and narrowed as they walked. Commander Rena has ordered a comprehensive introduction to our society, beginning with our historical archives. They entered a vast chamber where the walls displayed moving images, scenes from what Amara recognized must be Nebulan history, massive battles, elegant ceremonies, technological advancements, all playing out in stunning detail. "This is remarkable," she breathed, watching as stars exploded and civilizations rose and fell before her eyes. "It's like being inside the history itself." "That is precisely the point, Dr. Chen," came Commander Rena's voice from behind them. The commander entered her presence, immediately commanding attention. "History should be experienced, not merely studied." Amara turned, finding herself once again captivated by the imposing figure. Today, Rena wore ceremonial armor highlighting the powerful contours of her form, the purple of her skin seeming to glow against the metallic surface. Commander Kai bowed slightly. "I was just beginning Dr. Chen's first lesson." "Continue," Rena said, moving to stand beside Amara close enough that she could feel the subtle heat radiating from the commander's body. "I wish to observe." For the next several hours, Kai explained Nebulan history, their evolution from a warrior society to a diplomatic powerhouse, their sacred belief in the power of words and intentions. Throughout it all, Rena remained at Amara's side, occasionally offering clarification or deeper context, her knowledge clearly surpassing even Kai's. When they reached a section showing first contact with other species, Amara noticed a pattern. "Your people seem to have had difficult initial encounters with every new civilization. First contact is inherently fraught with misunderstanding." Rena replied, her voice softer than usual, "Which is why we developed strict protocols." "Protocols I thoroughly trampled with my earth humor," Amara said with a self-deprecating smile. To her surprise, Rena laughed, a rich melodic sound that seemed to make the very walls of the chamber pulse brighter. "Indeed you did, Dr. Chen. Indeed you did." The unexpected warmth in Rena's response caught Amara off guard. She found herself studying the commander's face, noticing the subtle variations in her purple skin, the way her eyes seemed to catch the light. "You stare, Dr. Chen," Rena observed, not unkindly. Amara didn't look away. "I'm learning as instructed, Commander." Something flickered in Rena's expression. "Learning what exactly?" "That there's more to you than your fearsome reputation suggests," Amara replied honestly. Kai cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps we should continue to the diplomatic section of our history." "No," Rena said, her eyes still locked with Amara's. "I believe Dr. Chen has had sufficient instruction for today." She turned to Kai. "You are dismissed." After Kai left, Rena moved closer. "Walk with me, Dr. Chen." They proceeded through the living corridors of the ship in comfortable silence until they reached what appeared to be Rena's private garden, a space filled with strange phosphorescent plants that seemed to reach toward them as they passed. "You are adapting quickly," Rena observed. "Most species find our ship disorienting, our customs impenetrable." "I'm a quick study," Amara replied, "and despite the circumstances, I find your culture fascinating." Rena turned to her, then reaching out hesitantly, before tracing a finger lightly along Amara's jaw. "And what do you find fascinating about me, Dr. Chen?" The touch sent an electric current through Amara's body. Her breath caught. "I'm still collecting data, Commander, but I'm certainly intrigued by the research." The challenge of atonement. The day of Amara's trials arrived sooner than expected. 3 weeks aboard the Astral Sovereign had passed in a blur of cultural lessons, combat training, and increasingly frequent private conversations with Commander Rena. The chamber where she now stood buzzed with anticipation as high-ranking Nebulon officials filed in, taking positions around the circular arena. "Are you prepared?" Kai asked, adjusting Amara's ceremonial attire, his expression concerned. "As I'll ever be," she replied, trying to mask her nervousness. "Though I still think reciting the entire Nebulon Code of Honor in your native tongue is excessive." Kai's lips twitched. "Commander Rena insisted on reduced requirements. She believes you are worthy." Before Amara could respond, the chamber doors parted and Rena entered. Her ceremonial armor gleamed magnificently, her purple skin adorned with additional markings for the occasion. The room immediately fell silent. "Dr. Amara Chen of Earth," Rena announced, her voice carrying effortlessly. "You stand before the Nebulon delegation to atone for your transgression. Do you accept the trials set before you?" Amara stepped forward, meeting Rena's gaze. "I accept." What followed tested every ounce of Amara's diplomatic training and newly acquired knowledge. First came the recitation of understanding, where she navigated the complex pronunciation of Nebulan philosophy. Then the challenge of perspective, where she demonstrated her comprehension of their cultural viewpoints. Finally, the most difficult, the rite of intent, where she had to explain her original transgression and transform it into something honorable. Throughout it all, she felt Rena's eyes upon her, not merely judging but supporting. When she faltered during a particularly difficult passage of the ancient texts, Rena subtly gestured, offering encouragement. When the council members pressed her with increasingly difficult questions, Rena's presence steadied her. As the final trial concluded, Amara stood exhausted, but proud. The head counselor approached, conferring quietly with Rena before addressing the chamber. "Dr. Chen has demonstrated exceptional understanding of our ways. The council finds her rehabilitation complete." Relief flooded through Amara, but was quickly replaced with an unexpected hollowness. Rehabilitation complete meant returning to Earth, leaving the Sovereign, leaving Rena. Later in her quarters, as she prepared for the departure ceremony, Rena arrived unannounced. "You exceeded all expectations," the commander said, her voice uncharacteristically soft. "I had an exceptional teacher," Amara replied, turning to face her. "Several, actually." Rena moved closer, the space between them charged with unspoken emotion. "The council has authorized your return to Earth." "Yes," Amara said, trying to ignore the tightness in her chest. "My diplomatic mission will finally continue, though not quite as planned." "Unless," Rena said, her eyes intense, "you were to consider an alternative arrangement, a new understanding." The Nebulan High Council chamber fell silent as Dr. Amara Chen, now officially designated as Earth's ambassador to the Nebulan Alliance, concluded her presentation, the same room where her diplomatic disaster had begun 3 months earlier, now witnessed her triumph. Therefore, she finished confidently, "I propose a joint cultural exchange initiative between our peoples, one that acknowledges our differences while celebrating our shared values." Counselor Thorne, who had once looked at her with suspicion, now nodded appreciatively. "Ambassador Chen, your understanding of our ways is remarkable for one not born of Nebulan." "I had exceptional tutors," Amara replied, her eyes finding Commander Rena, who stood at attention near the chamber's entrance. Their gazes locked momentarily, a private conversation passing between them. The head counselor rose. "This body accepts Earth's proposal. Ambassador Chen, you have transformed an unfortunate beginning into a promising alliance. The session is concluded." As the chamber emptied, Rena approached, her purple skin luminescent against her formal diplomatic attire. "Ambassador," she said, her voice carrying that special tone reserved only for Amara, "you continue to impress. High praise coming from you, Commander." Amara responded with a smile. They walked together through the corridors of the diplomatic station, their shoulders occasionally brushing, a casual intimacy that had developed over their months together. "The Astral Sovereign departs tomorrow," Rena said as they reached Amara's quarters. "The outer systems require attention." Amara turned to face her, reaching up to trace one of the markings on Rena's face, a gesture that had become familiar between them. "How long this time?" "2 Earth months," Rena replied, capturing Amara's hand and pressing it against her cheek. "Unless my ambassador requires my presence sooner." "Your ambassador always requires your presence," Amara whispered, stepping closer. Rena's arms encircled her. Their height difference long since ceased being an obstacle between them. "Then perhaps I should make tonight memorable," she murmured, leaning down to press her lips against Amara's. Later, as they lay together in Amara's quarters, Rena traced patterns on her skin. "Did you ever imagine," she asked, "that one poorly timed joke would lead to this?" Amara laughed softly, nestling against Rena's warm purple skin. "To becoming the first human ambassador to the Nebulon Alliance, or to falling in love with the most feared commander in 3 star systems?" "Both," Rena replied, her voice tender. "Never," Amara admitted. "But I'm beginning to think that sometimes the universe has a sense of humor after all." Rena smiled, pulling her closer. "Then perhaps we should thank it for the cosmic punchline that brought us together." As they drifted to sleep, Amara reflected on the journey that had brought her here. From diplomatic disaster to cultural understanding, from fear to respect to love. A journey that began with one ill-timed joke and ended with the most unexpected punchline of all, finding home in the arms of someone from another world. The next morning, as the astral sovereign prepared for departure, Amara stood on the observation deck, watching Rena oversee preparations, her commanding presence inspiring awe among her crew. In 2 months, she would return, and they would continue building the bridge between their worlds. Amara smiled to herself. Sometimes the greatest diplomatic achievements began with the most unlikely missteps.